Imagine a government so intensely concerned with security that it literally deploys the Air Force to fly medical exam papers across the country.
Right.
But then imagine that same government completely missing a basic weather alert, which results in, multi-million-dollar passenger jets getting smashed to pieces on a tarmac.
It's quite the contrast.
It really is. Welcome to today's deep dive. We are looking at a massive stack of incredibly fast-moving updates, all from June 9, 2026.
Yeah, and the sheer volume of these sources is wild. We've got everything from extreme global events to historic domestic milestones.
Exactly. Our mission today is to synthesize these 11 separate, seemingly disparate developments into a cohesive picture of India's current geopolitical and domestic footing. We are cutting through the noise to give you the essential why it matters.
Because when you lay all these intelligence reports, news updates, and government statements out on the table, the picture that emerges is one of a nation operating at absolute extremes.
Completely. And we are going to proceed through these items one by one. So let's start with the most immediate overseas crisis. Our first headline is 24 Indian sailors rescued after U.S. missile strike on tanker Marivex.
Yeah, the stakes really do not get higher than a military strike. So this happened on June 8th. The oil tanker Marivex was operating off the coast of Oman when it was struck.
Wait, a precision missile strike?
Yes, exactly. The Forward Seamen's Union of India started receiving these harrowing distress calls. Reports of massive engine room fires, lifeboats on one side being completely obliterated by the blast.
Oh, wow. That is terrifying.
It is. The remaining escape routes were blocked by flames, so the crew basically had to huddle at the bow of the sinking tanker.
But they all made it out, right?
Yeah, thankfully. A helicopter-led evacuation managed to get all 24 sailors off the ship safely. They're currently on Masira Island.
Okay, but we need to unpack the mechanism of this attack. This wasn't like a pirate attack or a rogue drone. The missile was fired by a U.S. Navy FA-18 Super Hornet, launched from the USS Abraham Lincoln. So why is the U.S. firing on a ship manned by Indians?
Well, the strike was highly calculated, but the target was the vessel itself, not the crew's nationality. According to U.S. Central Command, the Marivex was allegedly attempting to break a naval blockade.
I see. So it had prior sanctions.
Exactly. The U.S. had placed severe sanctions on this specific ship back in December due to alleged ties to Iranian maritime activities. The military claims the tanker was heading toward an Iranian port and actively ignored direct warnings to alter its course.
I mean, the crew actually reported seeing a U.S. warship nearby that didn't immediately rush in to assist them after the strike. That adds an incredible layer of tension.
It really does.
Moving to our next headline in this geopolitical web. Commerce Minister downplays U.S. tariff threats, says trade deal on track. So despite the missile strike, the diplomatic machinery is just churning along.
Yeah, it's a dual-track reality. Piyush Goyal is projecting total unflappable calm regarding U.S. relations, specifically downplaying the threat of Section 301 tariffs.
Section 301. That sounds like dry regulatory paperwork, but it's actually a massive economic weapon, right?
Totally. It's a provision in U.S. trade law allowing the president to unilaterally impose sweeping tariffs on foreign countries if the U.S. feels those countries are violating trade agreements.
Right. They can just bypass normal international trade dispute systems and slap massive taxes on imported goods.
Exactly. But Goyal is telling the Indian business community to just, ignore the noise. He argues these tariff threats are driven primarily by domestic U.S. politics.
Like the administration posturing because they lack congressional support.
You hit the nail on the head. He even pointed out that U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer is visiting India soon and insists the interim trade deal is firmly on track.
It feels like a chaotic group project, honestly. One member is firing missiles and threatening tariffs, but under the table, they're still passing notes to get the trade deals done.
That is a great analogy. And India has set this monumental target of reaching $2 trillion in exports by 2030-31. You can't let isolated shocks derail that.
Right. And those exports aren't just goods. Which brings us to our next headline. Federal judge strikes down Trump's $100,000 H-1B visa fee.
This is a major win for Indian tech in the U.S. Federal Judge Leo Sorokin just struck down that policy, which imposed a massive annual fee on H-1B visas.
$100,000 per visa every single year. The sources note this was a 20 to 50-fold increase over traditional fees.
Yeah, the obvious goal was to make hiring foreign skilled labor prohibitively expensive. But Judge Sorokin ruled it unconstitutional.
On what grounds exactly? Immigration law.
No, actually, based on tax law. He determined that a fee of that magnitude ceases to be a regulatory charge and functionally becomes a tax. And under the U.S. Constitution, only Congress can levy taxes, not the president, via executive order.
Wow, so a technicality but a huge legal victory for companies like Amazon. I mean, they secured 10,000 approvals in early 2025 alone.
It's massive for them.
But let me push back here for a second. Even if it's legally unconstitutional as a tax, doesn't the original political justification, protecting American jobs, still heavily influence U.S. policy right now?
Oh, without a doubt. The administration is expected to appeal. The immediate financial burden is gone, but the underlying friction remains. It's an incredibly fragile equilibrium.
Speaking of securing interests, let's pivot to our next headline. Indian Navy spearheads OPT 1,000 crore Great Nicobar dual-use airport. We're moving from global trade to physical maritime security.
And the scope of this is just staggering. They are building a greenfield, dual-use airport, civilian and military from scratch, alongside a transshipment port and a new township.
And it's all under the Indian Navy, right?
Yes. To understand why they're spending 81,000 crore, you have to look at the map. It's going to sit just 40 kilometers in the 6-degree channel.
Which is basically the jugular vein of global maritime trade.
Exactly. Roughly 2/3 of the world's oil shipments and half of all container traffic squeeze through there.
It's like building a control tower in a fortress right on the busiest maritime highway in the world. But, is this actually driven by commercial shipping needs, or is it purely a naval chessboard move to counter regional powers?
It's highly strategic. It drastically enhances their maritime domain awareness. But of course, building a fortress there comes with immense environmental consequences.
Right, because Great Nicobar is incredibly fragile ecologically.
It is. The government's project outlines do include a 2,220 crore conservation program to protect the leatherback turtles and coral ecosystems. They claim 81% of the island will remain protected.
That's a massive balancing act. And executing that kind of strategic vision requires immense political capital. Which leads us to our domestic politics segment. Just a quick reminder for you listening, our role here is to impartially report the facts and claims from our sources without taking any political sides.
Absolutely.
So our next headline is, Prime Minister Modi completes 4,399 days, surpasses Nehru's record.
On June 10th, he officially becomes the longest continuously serving elected PM in India's history.
That is a profound level of stability. The sources mention political scientist Ashwani Kumar, who calls Modi a civilizational modernizer.
Right, which captures the dual nature of his tenure. You have structural governance changes like the Antyodaya welfare initiatives,
Which target the absolute poorest citizens, yeah.
and then the civilizational markers, like the dilution of Article 370 in the Ram Temple. It projects monolithic stability at the top.
But, as we see in our next headline, that stability isn't everywhere. The headline is, Massive rebellion in Trinamool Congress as 20 MPs form separate bloc.
Yeah, the contrast is stark. The TMC is experiencing a structural collapse. 20 of their 29 Lok Sabha MPs just rebelled against Mamata Banerjee.
Wait, 20 out of 29? That's almost the entire parliamentary party.
It is. They met in Delhi, led by Kakoli Ghosh Dastidar, to declare they're backing the NDA. And Moha Moitra is aggressively demanding that the rebels resign and recontest on BJP tickets.
When 20 out of 29 MPs jump ship at once, does the anti-defection law even matter anymore? Or are we looking at a completely new political playbook?
Well, the law is designed to stop individual bribery. But there's an exception. If a split involves at least 2/3 of the party, they are protected from disqualification.
And 20 out of 29 safely crosses that 2/3 threshold.
Exactly.
The irony of the timing here is just unbelievable. Which brings us to our next headline. India bloc meets in Delhi to reinforce unity amidst TMC crisis.
Right down the street from where the TMC rebels were meeting, the India bloc, which includes Mamata Banerjee and Mallikarjun Kharge, was meeting to project unity against the BJP.
Talk about a split-screen reality. We have the India bloc projecting a united front in one room, while a key alliance member is literally fracturing in another.
Yeah. During that meeting, Kharge heavily criticized the government's handling of the economy and specifically the mismanagement of national exams.
Which bridges us perfectly to our next section on governance. The headline is, Indian Air Force deployed to airlift NEET Yuga retest papers.
This is wild. Following the massive leak of the May 3rd exams, the government is scrambling to conduct a retest on June 21st.
And their solution is to use the military.
Yes. They are deploying the Air Force to airlift sealed question papers to 18 locations.
It's a fascinating paradox. The government is treating medical exam papers like nuclear launch codes by flying them with the Air Force.
Hmm.
But meanwhile, they have huge systemic blind spots.
Oh, you're talking about the airport incidents.
Exactly. Our next headline is Sudden Delhi Storm Causes Ground Equipment to Crash into Parked Air India Jets.
Right, so a highly intense storm struck the capital, but
Yep.
air traffic control failed to issue any severe weather warnings to the ground crews.
No warning at all.
None. So they had zero time to secure their equipment. Heavy step ladders and service trestles were hurled across the tarmac into three parked Air India A320s.
That is insane. Multi-million-dollar aircraft getting smashed on the tarmac because of a missing weather alert. How do we reconcile this intense micromanagement of exams in one area with systemic blind spots in another?
It's a huge question of where state capacity is actually focused. And that pressure on physical infrastructure is happening elsewhere in the capital, too.
Which brings us to our next headline. Delhi High Court warns center overtaking Indian Polo Association grounds.
The center wants to take over this historic green space in Luchin's Delhi for defense infrastructure. It's prime real estate right opposite the PM's residence.
But the High Court stepped in, right?
Yes, they warned that central Delhi is already lacking open spaces. The court literally said that removing this green space will cause the capital to choke.
Wow. After all this heavy geopolitical, political, and infrastructural turbulence, I think we really need a palate cleanser.
I agree. Let's look to Cardiff for some good news.
Yes. Our final headline today, India women's team secures 26-run victory over West Indies in T20 warm-up.
A total masterclass in execution. Party for Molly was incredible, hitting an unbeaten 56 off 40 balls.
That is exactly the kind of stabilizing performance you need.
And then the spinners just dominated. Shriyanka Patil took 4 for 36, and Radha Yadav took 3 for 25. They caused a massive West Indies collapse.
It's brilliant. Captain Smriti Mandhana even called the fierce competition for spots on the team a good headache.
Yeah, that's the best kind of problem to have.
After a day filled with literal storms and political earthquakes, it is incredibly reassuring to see our spinners just doing what they do best. It proves that sometimes a good headache is exactly what you want.
Absolutely.
Well, take a step back and look at the massive journey you've been on with us today. We started on the geopolitical tightrope in the Strait of Hormuz, navigated the shifting sands of Delhi's political corridors, and ended down on the cricket pitches in Cardiff.
You are now fully caught up on the most vital facts from June 9th, 2026.
But before we go, I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder. Think about the Great Nicobar development and the Delhi Polo Grounds side by side. As India rapidly modernizes and aggressively secures its strategic interests, what is the ultimate price we are willing to pay regarding our environment and heritage? Is progress always a zero-sum game with nature? Something for you to mull over. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Stay curious, and we will catch you next time.